Everything begins with Ki, our protagonist, who is philosophizing about the universe when suddenly a UFO descends from the sky and a very beautiful woman emerges from it, which sparks his interest. However, she turns into a red thing and starts chasing Ki until he falls into a lake. This was a memory from the previous night. Now Ki is at school and he asks his friends if they saw the UFO, but no one knows anything. Suddenly, Kerusuke, a friend of Ki, arrives with some super important news. It turns out that their teacher had resigned, and not only that, but they had hired a young and attractive female teacher to replace him. Despite how strange it seems, everyone thinks that school will be more fun now that they have a young teacher. Then the teacher arrives. She seems somewhat shy and inexperienced. Her name is Mizuho. On their way home, the group talks about the new teacher. The boys agree that she is quite attractive, and the girls don't understand them. The only one who doesn't say much is Ki. Later, we see Ki at a clinic, which turns out to belong to his adoptive uncle, Minoru. He also talks about the new teacher and seems quite interested despite being married, and he encourages Ki to try with her. Kei feels confused about whether the UFO incident was real or not, but while he is on his balcony, he notices Mizuho unpacking some boxes. It turns out she will be his new neighbor. She recognizes him as her student and greets him, and he offers to help her. After much work, only one box is left. Mizuho says it is a very important box and they need to carry it together. He asks about the contents, but she says it's a secret. He then trips and falls on top of Mizuho. He apologizes, but she tells him she has been thinking about him since she saw him at school, and he faints from the shock. When he wakes up, Mizuho tells him that Marie examined him and found nothing wrong. He asks who Marie is, but she quickly changes the subject. He tells her that he has a condition where he faints when he feels bad, which he calls fainting. But he keeps looking at her strangely, and she asks if he remembers, linking his memories, and it turns out she is the woman who came out of the UFO and chased him. He gets scared and ends up dropping the secret box, but the contents are censored, and he tries to escape from the house. As he's about to open the door, Mizuho asks Marie to open an interstellar door, and it transports him to an alien spaceship. There, Ki swears he won't tell anyone what he saw, and she tells him to prove it and approaches to seduce him, saying that her manual said that Earthlings fall for those stimuli. But Ki manages to press a button and opens a door that helps him escape. He runs all over the ship until he ends up pressing some buttons and reaching the control room, where he meets Marie, a small yellow floating doll. He hits it so hard that it ends up knocked out on the floor, causing the ship to destabilize and become visible to everyone in the town. Mizuho manages to reach the control room and orders Marie to get up and stabilize the ship, but by mistake, she ends up sending Ki to another world where a sort of black hole tries to suck him in. But just then, Mizuho arrives and tells him to hold her tightly and not let go so they can withstand until Marie teleports them back. Marie does so, but ends up bringing them to Ki's bathtub, where his uncle catches them and has a reaction somewhere between angry and jealous because he misinterprets the situation. Everyone in the classroom was now talking about last night's UFO, even asking Mizuho if she saw it, and she was surprised. There were even helicopters flying over the area looking for clues. Kei is worried because, as his uncle found them yesterday, they had a talk with him and his wife, where they didn't believe the excuse he tried to give them. However, since Minoru was more jealous than angry, his wife said they would continue the talk the next day. Mizuho was also worried about the news regarding the UFO, wondering what the central headquarters will say if they find out. But first, she had to take care of Ki. During lunch, Marie teleports Ki to the storage room because Mizuho wants to talk to him. She tells him that she is a surveillance officer of the Galactic Federation, and is in charge of monitoring primitive civilizations to prevent them from making mistakes and destroying themselves. But while she is explaining, some girls come in to drop off some things and they hide. However, when the girls leave, they close the door and Ki and Mizuho are trapped. Mizuho asks Marie to teleport them, but he fails and teleports himself to where they are and then faints. He's been malfunctioning since Ki hit him, but luckily, he self-repairs, though they will have to wait some time since they can't ask for help without being discovered. Kei is hungry, so Mizuho gives him some chopsticks to eat with. She tells him they are special to her because they are the only memory she has of her father. He was an astronaut who traveled to Mars but got lost in space. The Federation rescued him, and that's where he met her mother. That's why she came to Earth, to learn about how her father lived. Ki then tells her about his fainting condition, saying that he's the first patient to have something like that, and the doctors don't know what he has. He also says that he had a fainting episode that lasted 3 years, and his body didn't develop at all during that time, so he looks 15, but is actually 18. He keeps it a secret because he doesn't want his friends to think he's weird. They then talk about what to tell Ki's uncles and consider pretending they are dating. Despite the challenges of a teacher-student relationship, they are about to kiss since they both feel mutual interest. But Minoru suddenly opens the door. He suspected Kei was there, and when asked how he opened the door, he says he got the key from the guard, But it turns out he actually went to the principal, and they end up getting caught. The principal asks what they were doing there, and the situation looks quite compromising, so they can't find an excuse. But Minoru tells the principal that the two of them are married. The principal says it doesn't make sense, but Ki reveals that he is actually 18, and his uncles confirm it, so they end up being saved. To make the line believable, they both sign a marriage certificate, making them legally married. The principal confirms that they are married and allows them to continue attending school as long as they don't show any affection there. Ki's friends think he's been acting strange lately because he's distanced himself from them, and they suspect he might have a girlfriend. When Ki arrives home, Minoru tells him that it's no longer his home and he now has to live in Mizuho's room to make it more believable. His uncles have organized a surprise wedding ceremony for him and dress Mizuho in a wedding gown, complete with a ring for Ki to put on her. He explains how to put it on since she doesn't know, and then they have to kiss. But just then, his friends arrive looking for him. When they realize he's not there, they think about leaving, but Hyosuke remembers that Mizuho's house is next door and wants to go see her. They both think Kei has been taking advantage of the situation to visit her and get jealous, starting to speculate that he's there and that's why he wasn't home. Koichi, who has a crush on him, impulsively goes to see if he's really there. His uncles quickly leave and Ki hides on the terrace. Mizuho receives them and offers tea, and they start searching her house for Ki, but she makes up excuses for anything suspicious. They finally enter the terrace, but Ki hangs from the balcony to avoid being seen, only to fall where a dog attacks him. Fortunately, he manages to hide so they don't see him, convincing them that there's nothing between Ki and Mizuho and that he wasn't there. Leaving the apartment, Kei speaks to them from his window, making up a story about searching for the UFO, which convinces them. But due to the pressure of having to lie, Ki faints, so Mizuho teleports into his room only to encounter Minoru, causing them to scream. They return home and she heals him with alien technology before they go to bed. They have to sleep on the same futon. And while there, they think about continuing their honeymoon. But just then, Marie malfunctions and teleports them to the spaceship, forcing them to stay up all night, preventing anything from happening that could expose the ship. Ki starts noticing things he doesn't like about Mizuho since she's the teacher. She has a superiority over him that is felt both at school and when they are outside. This bothers him because she corrects him at school and also outside. When he arrives home, Ki hears a message from Mizuho saying she has a meeting and will be home late, which makes him upset. While having dinner in his uncle's house, he receives a call from Koichi, who invites him to go to the movies with the group on Sunday. However, he had already planned to study with Mizuho that day. Feeling annoyed, he accepts without caring. His uncle teases him about being unfaithful so soon. Late at night, Mizuho comes home drunk, saying they drank alcohol at the meeting, and she got to drink too. Kei offers her a glass of water, and while she's changing, he tells her they need to leave school matters at school. She responds that since he's her student, he must listen to her. This irritates Ki, and he tells her he will go out with his friends on Sunday as he also has obligations to them. She worries they won't be able to study and tells him her duty is to take care of him. He gets upset because he doesn't want someone to take care of him and exert a superior role over him, so he goes to sleep in another room. On Sunday, Koichi goes to get Kei to go out with a group, but Mizuho feels uneasy seeing him leave alone with Koichi. In the end, it turns out that their friends set them up to go out alone, hoping something would happen between them since they were tired of seeing Koichi get rejected. Ki decides that since they're already there, they should go to the movies anyway, and Mizuho, who has been spying on them, thinks they're on a date. They go to play games and eat and end up at the movies, and Mizuho follows them the whole time. Koichi's friends had gone to see if the plan worked and end up running into Mizuho, who is dressed suspiciously in black. Eventually, Mizuho bumps into Ki and Koichi. She makes up an excuse, saying her uncle was worried about him and ordered her to follow him since she's his teacher. Ki tells her it's Sunday. They're outside of school and gets angry, leaving Koichi and Mizuho behind. Mizuho teleports to where Ki is and apologizes, but he tells her not to apologize because, in the end, it's her job as a teacher to take care of him, not as his wife, but as his caregiver. He asks her to leave, but then he has an attack and faints. When he wakes up, he's on a bench and regrets what he said to Mizuho. She is there waiting for him. She tells him that before being a teacher or an adult, she is his wife and felt bad when she saw him with Koichi. He asks her to show her feelings and wants to kiss her, but she tells him she already did while he was unconscious. Ki realizes that Mizuho truly loves him and that he misunderstood her actions, so they reconcile and everything is resolved. Both have gone to the beach for vacation. Despite the fear of being recognized, they manage to enjoy playing in the sea, taking photos and eating. While driving along the road, they notice a plane that Professor Yamada is building. He's an airplane enthusiast, and coincidentally, Ki's group is there to help him with the plane. Kei quickly sneaks out of the car to avoid being recognized by his friends, who recognize Mizuho and approach her to talk. Just when Ki thought he had escaped, Ichigo finds him and brings him to the group, so they all gather and Mizuho and Ki have to maintain their lie. He makes up a story about his relatives inviting him to the beach but then leaving, so his friends invite him to help Yamada, and he agrees to keep up the facade. They also invite Mizuho, but she declines and leaves to avoid raising suspicion. Both regret that their date ended that way. At night, they meet at a hotel to continue their honeymoon. The room is quite luxurious, and they have plenty of drinks for the whole night, but before continuing, they decide to go for a walk. Coincidentally, they run into their friends who are staying at the same hotel. So they end up going down to the first floor together. Ki goes with his friends, and Mizuho stays with Yamada to avoid suspicion. They go to the pool to hang out, but Ki keeps his distance. Koichi approaches him and tries to flirt, but he keeps rejecting her. She asks about their date, but he brushes it off. Meanwhile, Yamada is boring Mizuho with airplane talk. Later, Ki is invited by his friends to a party in one of their rooms and feels obligated to go, leaving Mizuho alone all night. She waits for him, but he takes too long. While playing cards, Koichi asks Ki to go buy something together, and he agrees, but he drops his room key card. Madagu picks it up, thinking it's his. And then Ichigo gives Hyosuke another card that isn't his either. Three things happen simultaneously. Koichi takes Ki outside the hotel to talk, and when he keeps ignoring her, she tries to kiss him. Madagu, half asleep, enters Mizuho's room and starts touching her without realizing it. Hyosuke accidentally enters the girl's room, and a half-asleep Ki confesses her love and kisses him. Due to the misunderstandings, everyone screams. Kai recognizes Mizuho's scream and rushes to see what's happening, leaving Koichi behind again. Ki meets Mizuho in the hallway. She tells him that a man entered her room and touched her. He seems indifferent because she was only touched, but she explains that it happened because he took too long and she missed him. They then go to the seashore to calm down there. He asks her if her heart beats for him because he doesn't know if she loves him. She tells him she does love him and tries to kiss him. But they are interrupted again by another misunderstanding. However, this interruption helps Ki realize that he truly loves her. Since the holidays have started and their relationship hasn't progressed much, Ki wants to move things forward and approaches Mizuho to touch her. But it turns out not to be her, but her mother, who has come to visit. Minoru can't believe that Mizuho's mother looks so young, but they accept her nonetheless. Both families meet, creating an awkward moment for Ki and Mizuho. Mizuho's mother asks her how she feels about Ki, but they are interrupted by her sister, Maho, who disapproves of the marriage. Maho claims that Mizuho didn't ask for permission and can't believe someone like Ki is her husband. She lists several flaws she sees in him and demands he stay away from Mizuho or she will make him disappear from the universe. Mizuho apologizes for her family's visit, and Minoru, who is like Maho's Marie, appears and tries to kill Ki but fails. Mizuho's mother scolds Maho, but Maho is determined to keep trying to kill Ki because she can't understand what her sister sees in him. Ki leaves the house to calm things down and meets up with his friends, who mention that Hyosuke has been distant and depressed lately, which is unusual for him. Kai offers to talk to Hyosuke, but he has to leave quickly when he notices Maho nearby. Ki later visits Hyosuke and asks what's wrong. Hyosuke shares what happened at the hotel and that Ki confessed her feelings to him, but he doesn't know what to do because he doesn't feel anything for her. Ki advises him that it's not necessary to be in love to start a relationship and that love can develop over time. Ki can't sleep at Mizuho's house because her family is there, so he calls her and asks for help about Hyosuke. The next day, Ki forcefully takes Hyosuke to see Ki so he can face his feelings. Initially, Hyosuke refuses, but eventually agrees. Mizuho had called Ki to meet at the spot where Ki was bringing Hyosuke. When they meet, Hyosuke tells Ki that he will have to leave the city to study and can't be with her. But she insists that she will do everything to follow him and be by his side no matter what, and they end up becoming a couple. Afterward, Ki and Mizuho celebrate that everything turned out well. Ki tells her that what happened with Hyosuke made him realize that it is possible to get married first and then fall in love. He confesses his love for her, and she reciprocates. They are about to kiss when Maho interrupts, claiming that Ki is gay. When that doesn't work, she tries to kiss, but Minoru is spending time with Marie and ignores her. Mizuho's mother seems interested in Ki because he resembles her deceased husband. Maho suggests that her mother should be with Ki so that Mizuho is left alone. Surprisingly, Mizuho's mother agrees, which is quite disturbing, prompting Kei to leave the house to avoid the conflict. Ki goes to help Yamada at the school and Koichi approaches him to talk. Meanwhile, Maho and Mizuho are searching for him. Koichi tells Ki that since Ki and Hyosuke became a couple, they seem happier and more motivated. She mentions that Hyosuke said Ki helped make it happen. She then asks Kei about something else. When Ki talked to Hyosuke, he mentioned liking someone, and she wants to know if it's her. Ki asks what would happen if it wasn't her, and she replies that she would cry. Just then, Nori appears beside her and scares her, causing her to fall on top of Ki. Mizuho sees this, but has to pretend to be a teacher. Mizuho takes them to the principal's office and asks them to moderate their actions at school. After they leave, she starts crying and Mizuho witnesses this. While Koichi and Ki walk out, she tries to talk to him, but he suddenly disappears. Mizuho had teleported him to another planet to kill him for making Mizuho cry, something she hadn't done since their father's death. In reality, Mizuho wasn't crying but had something in her eye. Mizuho starts bombing Ki until she manages to knock him down. However, when she thinks she is Ki gets up, grabs her, and begs her to let him be with Mizuho because he truly loves her. Mizuho argues that if Ki stays, Mizuho will be unhappy and that he should leave. Hearing these words, Ki recalls a memory of a girl leaving in faints. Mizuho arrives and learns what happened. She tries to wake Ki, telling him how happy she is with him, and he wakes up upon hearing her voice. Mizuho then accepts their relationship. Not only that, but like her mother, she also becomes attracted to Ki. They both leave, wishing Mizuho good luck on Earth. Before leaving, Mizuho gives Ki a kiss to supposedly make up for what she did, although she is very embarrassed to do so. Mizuho sees this and starts crying because she let her sister kiss Ki. Ki kisses her to calm her down and stays by her side to console her. Both of them fell asleep and the school term was about to start, so they hurried to get changed. Ki finished first and left Mizuho behind as she was taking too long to change. School started, and they began having minor arguments like when she punished him for being late because he didn't wait for her, etc. While talking about the vacation and how Hyosuke's relationship was going, Manabu told his friends that he felt lonely and decided he was going to confess to the teacher. At home, Mizuho scolded Ki for being late as she had been waiting for him. Ki told her he hadn't seen his friends in a while and then mentioned what Manabu had said, making Ki jealous because she commented on Manabu's good grades. Later, Ki was washing dishes and told Mizuho to stop eating so much because she would gain weight. She retorted that he should worry more about his grades than her figure. Then Ki received a call from Koichi, who said she wanted to see him to tell him something, and he agreed to make Mizuho jealous. At the same time, Mizuho received a call from Manabu, who had questions about an assignment, and as revenge, she agreed to meet him. As they headed to their respective meetings, both regretted acting impulsively, not knowing what to do if the other person confessed. Finally, they arrived at their destinations. He met with Koichi, who asked why he had been disappearing. He said he was busy studying, and then mentioned he had little time and was about to leave. But she grabbed him and confessed her love, saying she wanted to be with him. Ki rejected her, telling her he was already with someone he loved very much. She accepted this and told him to go. Ki ran to find Mizuho, who was with Manabu. He found them, but they were just studying. Ki then talked with Mizuho, feeling bad for having hurt others' feelings. She told him it's better to be happy with oneself than to lie and be with someone you don't love. Koichi, feeling sad, met with Yamada, who gave her an analogy about airplanes, saying that the process should be enjoyed, not just the result. He asked if she enjoyed her process, and she said yes, which made her feel better. When they were about to sleep, Ki decided that he truly wanted to be with Mizuho and wanted to be happy with her. When Ki sees Koichi again at school, he can't help but feel bad for her and what happened. Koichi tells her friends that Ki rejected her, and Ichigo seems unhappy with the outcome. Mizuho also overhears and feels bad for Koichi. Due to what happened, the atmosphere between Ki and Mizuho is awkward because they both feel bad about Koichi's feelings. The whole group finds out, but they all agree to let it go because it's what Koichi wants. However, Ichigo isn't convinced, so she calls Ki to talk with him. Ichigo confesses that she was the one who encouraged Koichi to confess and says she just wants to see her friends happy, as it makes her feel like they are progressing. Ki doesn't understand what she's saying until she suddenly faints. When Ki checks on her, he realizes she has Taite, the same illness he has. When Ichigo wakes up, she finds herself at home. Ki had taken her there because he thought she didn't want anyone to know about her illness. It turns out she was in a coma for 6 years and now she's 21. Having lost everything like Ki, she now lives alone and has no one but her friends, which is why she wanted them to be happy. Ki tells her it's time to move on to keep progressing and that he will help her do so. Ki decides to break up with Mizuho because he understands what Ichigo went through. He knows that if she isn't happy, she will stop again and lose more years of her life, and her only happiness is her friends. Therefore, he feels he needs to be with Koichi to help Ichigo, so he breaks up with Mizuho, telling her that he doesn't fully understand what's happening, but that his priority now is to support Ichigo. Back home, Ki lies on his bed and begins to remember Mizuho. Although he loves her, he knows he has to follow through with his decision, so he has no choice but to say goodbye to her. The next day, he calls Koichi to talk. Ki tells Koichi that the girl he liked rejected him and they end up together. Mizuho tells Ki's uncles what happened and says she accepts what Ki wants, even though she doesn't feel the same and misses him terribly. Now Ki talks on the phone with Ichigo and asks about how her illness is going. She asks if he's forcing himself to be with Koichi, but he says no. As time goes by, Koichi and Ki spend more time together, but she senses something is off with Ki. One day, they say goodbye, but she forgets to give him something. She realizes Ki isn't going home, but to Ichigo's place, so she follows him. She overhears their conversation and sees how close they are, misunderstanding that the girl Ki liked was Ichigo. She runs away. Koichi starts having an attack, but Ki calms her down, saying he'll clear up the misunderstanding and asks for her help to find Mizuho. When they find her, Ki approaches and tries to explain what happened, but she doesn't believe him. He asks how he can prove it, and she tells him to kiss her. As he moves to kiss her, Mizuho sees them, starts crying and runs away. Ki chases after her, and Ichigo approaches to explain what happened to Mizuho. Ki pursues Mizuho, but she teleports away and he can't reach her. Ichigo explains everything about the illness and what happened to Mizuho, saying she didn't want to see her cry but wanted to support her, telling her she suspects the girl Ki likes is Mizuho. Kei arrives at Mizuho's house and begs Marie to teleport him to her. Marie complies, and when Mizuho asks Marie to teleport her, she refuses. Mizuho starts running, but Ki catches up to her. Initially, she says she hates him, and Ki understands he's ruined everything and starts to leave. But she then says she also loves him, and he starts crying, hugging, and kissing her, asking for forgiveness, but then he suddenly faints. Ki is trapped in a memory of a girl telling him that it's better to stop when you're happy rather than live in sadness, and she commits suicide, leaving him unable to stop her. Mizuho is doing everything she can to wake Ki up, so she stops going to school and sends a substitute. Koichi and Ichigo go looking for Ki, fearing that his illness might have reactivated, but his uncles only tell them that he went with his parents for some matter and not to worry. Time keeps passing and he doesn't wake up. Mizuho talks to him, reminding him of everything they've lived through since they met, how she fell in love with him and the feelings he awakened in her, pleading with him not to stop. The girl in his memory continues telling Kei about human greed for happiness, but says it's a contradiction because in the world they live in, excess happiness causes sadness. Therefore, by leaving that world, she transcended to another where there is only happiness. He asks her to show him that world, and she tells him that to enter that world, he has to stop all his senses. But as he is about to stop, his glasses fall off and he has a memory of Mizuho, but he doesn't recognize her. Suddenly, she appears, but he still doesn't recognize her. She tells him that in the future, they will get married and be very happy, that despite moments of pain, these will soon turn into moments of happiness. At first, he doesn't believe her, but then he remembers his feelings for her and promises to return to the present to be with her. Thanks to his conversation with Mizuho, he realizes that the taitai is something he created to escape sadness because the girl who committed suicide was his sister, and this event left him traumatized. But now he no longer wants to flee from a world where there is both happiness and sadness. He wants to face it and live his present to the fullest. Ki then wakes up, but unfortunately, he no longer remembers Mizuho. She left him a box of the sticks he likes, but he doesn't recognize them either. However, when he sees them, he starts crying and feels like someone is calling him from somewhere, but he doesn't know who it is. The Interstellar Court has discovered that Mizuho has had contact with an Earthling and that she used the mental intervention system on him, so they are going to remove her from her position and erase her memories of Earthlings. Professor Yamato won the manned aircraft tournament, and it seems Koichi is now interested in him. In fact, he took her advice about his hair and gave her his tournament trophy, as she was the one who inspired him to keep going. Kate and Hyosuke want to take their relationship to the next level. Ichigo and Ki continue talking about taitai, and he says it has been a long time since he had a fainting spell, but he feels an emptiness in his heart, and she tells him it's because he is looking for something he hasn't found yet. Then we return to where it all started. Ki is philosophizing about the universe. However, this time an alien ship does not appear out of nowhere. Instead, Mizuho is watching him from afar, despite her mother and sister warning her that he wouldn't remember her. And it would be painful. She was determined to create something new with him because she couldn't let him go. Her mother helps her get to Earth without the Federation seeing her. Everything happens exactly as in the first episode. Hyosuke talks about a new young teacher arriving. She enters the classroom and everyone gets excited, although it has been a year since she first arrived. She moves into the same building and the same events unfold as before. Ki is on the balcony and she recognizes him as her student. He offers to help her, and when they finish, they carry the same box together, only this time each holding a different side. This time, Mizuho trips and falls on him and she starts crying because she can't handle the memories. But then he tells her that he does remember her because he had been looking at the box she left him, and when he saw her again, his memories unlocked. They start to recall everything they lived through together and hit back together. They continue their lives normally, explaining their relationship to Ki's uncles again, and everyone continues living happily ever after.